Okay. And I need to record.
I've already got it recording.
You got it. Okay.
Yep, it's recording.
All right. I think we're ready.
Ready to go in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, let's do this. Welcome, everybody. I think what we're going to do is have the introductions again. New member here with us, Crystal.
Introductions would be great.
Great. I'm Michaelis. We're along with the chair of the committee.
Looks like that's up for
Yeah.
change.
Gary Morley, member of the committee.
I'm Crystal Muhlestein. I'm new to the city council.
So Crystal will be working with our Public Works Advisory Commission, at least for the next year. And she's been assigned by Mayor Michaelis. So welcome, Crystal, and congratulations on the election. I'm Tschirki, Public Works Director.
Mike Whimpey, commission member of the. And Todd Hadley. Beach Ride. Brian Johnson. Jim Bucks. Peterson, Cody Steggell, PRS. Sabey, Stormwater.
Thayne Carter, police manager.
April Nelson, administrative assistant.
Tyler Bennett, assistant public works director.
And then online, we have Brent Tobler. Brent, can you hear us okay?
He's muted, so.
Yeah, you're Brent, you're muted, but can you hear us all right?
There.
See if the sound.
Maybe we need to check the volume on this TV. Sometimes we need to turn that off and check the,
Brent, can you hear us? You're on mute.
did you already try it? Read.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little
Oh.
soft, but I can hear.
Oh, okay, great.
Good. All right. Let's go to approval of the minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes. Second. Second. Okay, all in favor? All right. Any opposed? Brent, you okay with that too? Here.
Brent, can you hear us okay? Or we just took a motion on the minutes?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry. I was just getting my headphones in. Hopefully I can
Okay.
hear much better now.
Okay, we just took a motion on the minutes. Do you approve of the minutes?
Yes, I approve.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Now we need to move to election of a new chair and vice chair.
I'll just mention that, well, first of all, Jim's done an outstanding job, and we appreciate your support with this. We've been advised that we should have an election at the beginning of each year to nominate and approve of an election, or excuse me, of a chair and a vice chair. Doesn't have to be a new chairman. It can be the same one. Just wanted to throw that out there, but it's up to the committee to go ahead and then nominate and then elect.
I nominate you, Mike.
I was gonna be the same for you. I was also going to comment, it's a bad day for Rob Moore and a few others not to be here.
Yeah, that's true too. You do have a full quorum, so.
Okay, in absence of any others other than Mike.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Hey, all in favor?
I bet this is mine.
Oh, we already did.
All in favor?
I,
Okay, Mike, you're the new man.
Well, that's
Welcome, Mike.
Now you know how I
I
feel.
think we better get a vice chair. Any recommendations on the vice chair?
I think Gary would be a good.
Gary, how do you feel about that? We'll give you an opportunity to share your voice before you're. Well, I would nominate Gary to be vice chair.
I'll second that.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks, Brent. Effective as of now,
That's
this very moment.
Yes, yes. You're in charge.
All right. Any other business associated with that, Chris?
No, but we'll get into the handbook review and we can talk a little bit about procedures for committees and commissions. So, oh, you just missed the
Rob, you
election.
barely missed out. We
Well,
just voted you to be the chair. and
Yeah,
the vice
yeah, you're
chair.
the new chair.
Oh,
So,
You're lucky you're a few minutes
No, there's a lot better chairs.
late. Well, just to bring you up to speed, they got nominated
All right.
as chair and then Gary. Effective.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, I'm going to
handbook review. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and I'll switch. Actually, I'm gonna get. Okay. We received a formal training from our city recorder and city attorney earlier this year as basically staff regarding commissions. Our commission is one of many in the entire city. You've all received the link, I believe, to all of the documents that we're going to be sharing with you and reviewing today. This handbook is pretty well done. It's pretty comprehensive. It's, I don't know, it's almost, well, it's 31 pages altogether. But there's some really general guidelines. I'm going to skim over much of this. If you have any questions or comments or concerns or feedback, we'd appreciate that at this time. Basically, your role as a commissioner or a member of the PWAC Commission is to support the city of Orem in creating vision and helping us to specifically look at all of our utilities and then parks and fleet, GIS, and all of our divisions that we're involved with. In fact, Todd was brought on board and came online 3 terms ago. Your term's coming up. And Todd was specifically requested to help us evaluating Utopia and Utopia concerns back when we were looking at going with a group called the Morley group and having them help us to manage that. But he was a part of that, and then I think his name was McGinn. I can't remember his first. Is it John McGinn? Maybe, I'm not sure, but he was also brought on board then. So basically, essentially, we have people from our city, lay members, or they could be specialized in certain areas such as water or facilities or fiber optics, and some may not have any role or in the industries, and they just provide a good solid sounding board and provide good solid feedback regarding policy review and so forth. There are areas of focus that the council has adopted. These are the main areas of focus. These are from 2025. I believe they're going to continue into the next year. They want to help build a skilled and talented workforce in the city and align the interests of the council and the employees and the community together. And I believe that's one of the main roles of this commission. They want to help to build a thriving and balanced business environment, dependable infrastructure. That's another component that we are heavily engaged in there. And then safe, livable, connected, and engaged neighborhoods. I'd say that's overlapping with this commission. Community-focused and effective government also overlapping. This is a review of the city's form of government. We have a strong mayor form of government. Our city council, our form of government is, it's not a strong mayor. I misspoke there. It's a city council form of government. So management is led by the visions created by the mayor and the city council. We as staff then implement their vision. It's a city manager form of government. Brent Whimpey is our city manager. Organizational structure, I'm not going to go into the details of this, but there are several departments in the city, including Public Works. We're going to be reviewing the ethics policy and then also the Open Public Meetings Act. That'll be coming up next, and that'll be more in-depth training. But you guys, the commission is called basically together to influence public policy, to help review any guiding documents, master planning efforts, rate studies, anything that involves and overlaps with the Public Works mission. And so we talked about composition and authority a little bit there. It's giving some guidelines and recommendations for you as becoming a key and effective commission member. Getting the highlights is to understand, know your stuff is what it says here, but basically come prepared. We try to provide information to you in advance so that you can have time to review that. So be present, prepared, understand your role in your city limits. You're basically asked by the mayor to operate and function as a commissioner to provide feedback and recommendations to the council. So you can make decisions and so forth, but those are passed on to be formally adopted, and the recommendations then are approved by the mayor and the city council. We're going to review this in just a minute. You know, we follow the Robert Rules of Order, so we have a commission chair and their vice chair. Some of your roles are to set up the agenda. Also, there's an important thing that we're going to adopt later on, and that's our calendar of events. This has to be posted on a website, on a state website, identifying when we're going to be meeting and the times and the locations and so forth. So setting that agenda and the calendar dates. We follow the Robert's Rules of Order. This is basically standard review for everybody here. We have a call to order. We identify who's in attendance. We review the meeting minutes, which we just did. We address the agenda items. That's coming up right now. Any motions, then we have somebody that will make a motion, and then a second, and then there will be a formal vote that will be taken. Any announcements that we need to make and so forth. Post meeting. So April, we'll be reviewing the recordings, and she'll prepare the minutes and make those available within 3 days of the meeting. She does an outstanding job with that. The meetings don't need to go verbatim into detail, but they should provide a good comprehensive overview of what was discussed and be able to access. So I think right now, April, you're providing some text content, and then with a link to the actual recording of the meeting to where you can find that context, and then look at it in greater detail, verbatim actually. So she'll prepare the draft minutes, and then those are reviewed by the board and then approved here after that. After that's been reviewed by everybody. Duties of chair and vice chair. Well, we can lean into that a little bit since we have a new chair and vice chair. So we asked one person or nominate one person, and that just occurred. So the chair will call the meeting to order. We'll work with city staff in advance, offline, prior to the meeting, and set up the agenda. You'll help to facilitate discussions and lead out in the meeting itself and meeting on the agenda. Make sure we cover everything. Maintain order and decorum. We don't have much in terms of concerns there. Oh, there could be.
We work together.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting year. Guiding the commission through presentations, summarize discussions, articulate the commission's decisions and recommendations, and then also help assist in presenting to a city council. We have an annual report that we give every year, and Jim has done an outstanding job with that. We prepare and give an overview of what we've done and accomplished and recommended. And every time we do that, I'm really quite impressed with all of the many things that we're engaged with and involved with. Duties of the vice chair, assuming that the chair is not here, will preside over the meetings, fulfill all the duties of the chair. And Gary, your role will be to support Mike in his role in assisting and preparing the agenda. And then assign any other tasks that are assigned to fulfill those as needed. Committee assignments to serve on the committee and work groups on behalf of the commission as needed, and other duties as assigned. That last catchphrase, I think, as city staff, we're all very familiar with that phrase. There are other duties as assigned. You never know, quite frankly, what you need to be doing sometimes day to day, and you'll be let know. Somebody will let you know if there's something specific or in particular that we want to address. So, yeah, this is for sure a catchphrase. Other duties. Okay, motions and voting. I think we're all familiar with this. Just wanted to make sure. Do you have any questions regarding motions, voting, discussions, debating, stating the question, and so forth? Amending a motion, a subsidiary motion, withdrawing a motion. Generally, we don't get into that so much. It's pretty straightforward. And then the rules of voting, we have somebody that nominates or makes a motion, then there's a second, then there's a vote. You either say aye or yes or nay or no. In our quorum, so our commission has 7 members. So in order to have a full quorum present to get any formal motion, we need to have at least 4 members present. And today we have 6 altogether, including Brent online. If you need to abstain from a vote, and for example, if you have a conflict of interest, which I don't think we've ever had to do that, but in the event you do, you can say that you need to abstain. That means that you're not going to vote on that. And you need to state why. I think you need to state why you're abstaining from that vote. Let's see. Service length is 3 years, or term limits 3 years. You can serve for 2 consecutive terms. Generally, the city code is silent on the number of terms. Actually, it doesn't have a limit, but our current policy is to go for two consecutive terms. And if there are some special circumstances, then you could serve for 2 or more with a vote and consent of the council. Oh yeah, welcome. All right. Ethical guidelines. Tyler's going to get into this in greater detail, but to highlight, we need to support the integrity and honesty and transparency and accountability of all of our actions. We need to be impartial and objective. If we have a conflict of interest, we need to state that and abstain on a vote if necessary. We should be diligent, prepared, and ready to go, respectful of conduct. There might be some concerns this year, apparently, that Robert's expressed. Accountability, yeah, all right, there you go. Use of public resources, adherence to rules and procedures. Any concerns, or we're going over this at a high level. There are also links in this document for a lot of resources available to you. If you'd like to dive into any city code, this link will take you there, and it's pretty good. In fact, let's have a look at that really quick. It's pretty comprehensive, of course. If you go into the city code, you can see all of the chapters. There's 25, and then an appendix at the end. And there's a really good search component on this as well. So if you can't sleep at night sometime, you can open that up and have a look. Put you right to sleep. But if you have any questions or thoughts on that, yes.
Links that were sent to me.
Is there an issue with that? Okay. We'll grant permission on each of those. Can you do that? Okay. They should be, okay. Which ones were all of them? All 3 of them were, oh, we apologize for that. Okay. We'll make sure that you have access to all of those as soon as possible. There are links in this document to budget documents. In fact, let's okay. We'll get that to you so you can have time to review these as well. There are links to budget documents, previous meeting minutes and agendas, the city website, master plans for sewer, water, stormwater, transportation, neighborhood plans, general plan, so forth.
Fast.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen it.
No, no, but this is something that you could look at if you want to. These are just links for you if you're curious about any of these other items. Okay. And then specifically, we have all of these commissions. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on this that's represented here at least. I think there are more than these. But in the end, let's go ahead and look at specifically at Public Works Advisory Commission, because we'll get into more detail here. This was created in 2014 in an attempt to get some community sound, create a sounding board and provide some feedback and some guidance regarding key decisions that will be affecting the community, affecting ratepayers, and so forth. So some of the main duties are to review and make recommendations to the city council and to the mayor regarding any public works issues. We review and make recommendations to the council specifically regarding city infrastructure, including water, sewer, stormwater, streetlights, roads, telecommunications, broadband, fiber, cemetery, parks, and fleet, or anything else that's really not identified there. I think we covered them all. Review and make recommendations to the council on master plans, which we've done many times. The recommendations may include capital facilities plans, financial plans, supporting utility rates, other relevant recommendations. Recently, this last year, we covered the impact fees that are proposed. We're going to review that today as well. For your information, that's going to go before the city council for review and consideration on next Tuesday. And we'll review those final recommendations here in this meeting today. We also work toward continuing education of citizens regarding public works issue and a variety of matters. And then planning and arranging for neighborhood meetings, open houses, attending such meetings to receive and review public input. We have done that in the past regarding master plans as we've had open houses. The reference to the code is shown here. There are 7 members. The term is 3 years. Required quorum number of members for the quorum is 4. And then I can't edit this, Crystal, otherwise I'd put your name there. So I need to request access to edit this myself. That says the meeting frequency is monthly. However, that's the most we would generally meet. We've never really met every month of the year. We tend to meet more heavily at the beginning of the year, take some time off in the summer, then in the fall, and then take some time off on the holidays around Thanksgiving and Christmas, generally speaking. So that's a quick overview of this document. I guess you have not had a chance to review this, but we will give you access to those links. Any thoughts, comments, questions on any of this?
Like a motion.
I don't know that we need one for this really. It's just a review. Yeah. So
I bet your wheels gonna need
yeah. Gary.
Just a quick thought, looking at the news, what's going on around the country, I think that, you know,
Absolutely. Things are under control, right? Things are going well, I would say, but yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll turn some time over to Reed then. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. On the next item on the agenda, and it's review. We get to watch a video about the open and public meetings act. The purpose of this is to ensure transparency and actions that our city takes, whether it be the city council or other areas. And so it's a relatively short video that runs through things like how to hold a public hearing, how to hold an electronic meeting, how to hold emergency meetings, how to hold a closed meeting, what notice requirements, and how to take minutes and post minutes. A lot of those things that it's going to cover, we probably as a Public Works Advisory Commission won't do. We probably won't hold a public hearing. We probably won't need to hold an emergency meeting. Probably won't hold a closed meeting, but it's good for us to think. But it's good for us to know in the event that we would what we just need to do abide by the state code. It's just good information to have so that you know what other, what the city council should be doing or other government. And so, Chris, you just want to start playing this with
Quick question.
this video.
This, take video.
Yes.
I saw in your policy that we're supposed to watch a video. So are you relying on the states every year? Sometimes I do it. Supposed to be better at it.
You mean,
It says in your policy.
Yeah.
to Watch a video.
right? This is it.
This is it. But my point is the state doesn't always give it. There's been years where they have.
This one's from 2023. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just checking.
Yeah.
It's fairly involved, all the things that we need to do. So it's obvious that there's a lot that we need to ensure that we do in order to ensure transparency. And the staff supports this group in order to make sure that how we do. But any questions about the open and public meeting? Are there any additions, Robert, that you're aware of?
Thanks to April. He does all the work, he puts it on the agenda, on the website, he does all that, all the minutes. Thank you, that's a big work. We just talk.
Okay, next agenda item, ethics and conflict of interest training.
Morning. This is after to review with you our conflict of interest and ethics portion of this training. Not going to elaborate a whole lot because we're talking about state and city code. We just want to make sure that we cover it in its entirety. But I think what we'll do is we'll just read through each of these slides. There's only 10 of them, so we get to them fairly quickly. But But what we're gonna review is the conflict of interest with the municipal officers and employees ethics act, use of office for personal benefit prohibited, compensation for assistance in transaction involving the municipality, disclosure statement required for interest in business entity regulated by the municipality, and disclosure statement required for interest in business entity doing business with the municipality. Next slide, Chris. So according to Orem City Code 268B, whenever the performance of a public servant's official duty requires governmental action on any matter involving that person's or a relative of that person's direct financial or personal interest, and it is reasonably foreseeable that the decision will have an individualized material effect on such interest, distinguishable from its effect on the public generally, the public servant shall disclose the conflict and disqualify himself or himself from deliberating, deciding, and voting on that matter. Chris mentioned this a little bit earlier in the training, where you would choose to abstain from voting in that instance if there would be a conflict of interest with the person. It requires,
Which is more than required,
what's that?
which is more than what's required by statement. So you don't have to disqualify yourself for statement.
Okay,
You have to disclose, you don't have to disqualify. But there is other potential penalties if you enter into something that's not criminal violence.
right. We'll get
You
into
don't
some of that a
technically
little
like
later.
state law, but if you have a code that's adopted that, that's what you have.
You'd be in violation if you voted in favor of you. I mean, can you define that a little bit? I mean,
For example, you have a sibling that has a business interest in an item that's coming for you. So you disclose that. By state law, you would not have to disqualify,
just be objective.
but yes, under state law. But under your Orem code, you probably would. What? I'm just highlighting the difference. There's a difference, but that's okay.
It's helpful to have an attorney at the table.
Well,
so
the
this is
state
good
law
insight.
too. Like I said, the issue you have with state law. You have other provisions. I would just highlight it.
No, I appreciate that, and we'll review that a little bit later on. According to the city code, the required action of you as a public servant is that you shall disclose the conflict, disqualify herself or himself from deliberating, deciding, and voting upon the matter. And the disclosure shall be made to the public body of which the public servant is a member, and use of the employee of the city being employed. These are a couple of examples that kind of help illustrate the point. A planning commission member, for example, Mr. Smith, on this undeveloped plan. The matter is a proposal before the planning commission seeks to rezone Mr. Smith's property for single-family residential to high-density multifamily residential. The direct financial interest would be the approval to dramatically increase Mr. Smith's land value, allowing him to sell to a developer for a much higher price. The foreseeable individualized material effect would result in that this decision would reasonably and foreseeably have an individualized material effect on Mr. Smith's finances due to the direct substantial property value increase. And this is distinguishable from the public generally because the financial benefit to Mr. Smith is specific and significant relating directly to the private land transaction, unlike the general public's effect.
So in this particular case, under state law, he could just say, I have this property that's going to be rezoned, and
You're still. I think you would have a problem, but when I mentioned your brother, you may not have financial interest.
yeah,
You just may have a relative. This one, you clearly have financial. You can change the facts and say all properties around Mr. Smith are being rezoned, but he can get where he's at. But yet he's on the planning commission, so he might vote for that.
Mhm.
But that's not giving him a direct financial now. But eventually, tomorrow, he gets easy. Already rezoned all the way. So those are those are factors, and that's what attorneys do.
right.
So,
But what could, if his argument was, yeah, I'm doing this in the best interest of the community at large, that would be something that would be his defense, right?
yes, but I think under your code, which I like your code.
Yeah.
You made it more clear.
Mm-hmm.
State law, in my opinion, maybe it's always clear about. County guys made it more clear. So I think clearly in this situation,
So even with this particular instance, state code would allow him to vote on the matter. He would just need to disclose that he would gain. So
technically under state law, it's a worse disclosure statement. Probably.
okay.
Do I like that? Not necessarily, but we need some of this thing, talk about state.
You only cover the other one. Skip.
No.
Okay. The purpose of this act is to establish standards of conduct for municipal officials and employees and require them to disclose actual or potential conflicts of interest between their public duties and personal interests. This particularly goes over 4 different Utah state codes. The use of office for personal benefit is prohibited, which prohibits the use of office for personal economic gain or to secure special privileges. There's compensation for assistance in transaction involved with the municipality, where municipal officers and employees cannot receive compensation for aiding a person or business in a transaction with the municipality unless they file a sworn statement detailing the assistance and publicly disclose it to their body members or supervisor. Then there's disclosure statement required for interest in business entity regulated by the municipality, where municipal officer and employees must disclose any substantial interest, like an officer or ownership role in a municipal regulated business upon starting a term and when changes occur. And finally, the disclosure statement required for interest in business entity doing business with the municipality, where municipal officers and employees must publicly disclose their conflict of interest, specifically their role or substantial ownership interest in a business entity that does or anticipates doing business with the municipality immediately before any relevant discussion.
You can see those last 2 for a statement.
Right.
So if, for example, the last one says they have to disclose before making a decision. Right. They technically could be involved in the decision process. Under state code, again, I like what the commission is done.
So, to define the use of office for personal benefit being prohibited, you are to not disclose or improperly use private control or protected information acquired through official duties to further personal economic interests or secure special privilege for oneself or others. You should not use or attempt to use an official position to substantially further personal economic interests or secure special privileges for oneself and others. You should not knowingly receive, accept, or solicit any substantial gift or economic benefit that is intended to improperly influence your public duties or is meant to reward you for official action already taken. And the prohibition against accepting substantial gifts or economic benefits excludes occasional monetary gifts under $50, public service awards, legitimate ordinary course of business loans, and political campaign contributions. It is an offense for an official to receive or agree to receive compensation for assisting any person or business entity in any transaction involving the municipality unless they file with the mayor a sworn statement. The official makes a disclosure in an open meeting for members of the municipal body of which the officer is a member immediately before the discussion, and for an officer that is an elected officer files the sworn statement with the city recorder. The sworn statement must be filed 10 days prior to any agreement between the officer and the business, or 10 days before the receipt of compensation, whichever is earlier. The statement must contain the following: the name and address of the official, the name and address of the business entity being assisted, and a brief description of the transaction, the nature of the service. So these two are disclosure statements required for interest in business entities regulated by the municipality. It looks like since I'm not even sure what the difference of these two are. There's the mandatory disclosure where officers and employees must disclose any substantial interest in a business entity that is regulated by the municipality. You're disclose the conflict of interest upon starting the position, and whenever the position or the value of the interest significantly changes. You're disclose this by filing a sworn statement with the mayor and the city recorder. The disclosure is reported to the governing body and posted on the municipality's website. The only exception would be that the disclosure is not required if the value of the interest does not exceed $5,000.
I would say the difference.
Yeah.
The first one, I mean, let's say you're a board director in Utopia. That's something you guys do business with related to any entity regulated by the municipality. That may not be very good. And this one I'm here on the right is more like you're a board member or you're in out of company, construction company, something like that. There's business. I think that's how I would see it.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't use great examples. And the first one's harder, trying to figure out what businesses you're regulating. Might
Well,
be
well,
an example of that would be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
It's probably to get pretty good on wastewater. Destroy it. It's hard. I mean, you could argue any business likes to be a thing as well.
Yep.
Might qualify
Yep.
that.
Probably. Yeah. Any construction efforts, we regulate that. We do inspections and so forth.
Yeah, that one's regulated. The other ones you actually do business.
Right.
Those kind of outlines the penalties that we could face for an ethic violation. If you knowingly and intentionally violate most sections of the Utah Municipal Officers and Employees Ethics Act, the results could be dismissal from employment or removal from office and potentially the following, where the value of compensation or conflict exceeds $1,000, it would be considered a second-degree felony. If it's $250 to $1,000, it would be considered a third-degree felony. 100 to 250 is a class C misdemeanor and 100 or less. If you have any in-depth questions about these rules or laws, please reach out to our city attorney's office.
I asked the city attorney if he's going to be presenting on this since he's the expert for the community or for the city. And he said, no, you go ahead and do it. You've been trained. I'm like, okay, we're just going to pass this along. And then if there's any questions, we'll get back to you. So that's where we are.
Good job. That felt kind of brutal. I don't know that I was trained on this, so I appreciate your patience.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, next item on the agenda is adopting a meeting calendar. April is listed as the lead on this, and the calendar is placed in each person's place. Any discussion, I guess, or thoughts? I would have one on the March dates. I know that perhaps Rob and I will have a conflict and making do it.
Yeah. Is that water users?
Water users.
Okay.
Or maybe consider bumping that one to the 24th.
We still have a conflict.
Do the 10th.
No preference between those two.
And the 10th work for you. 10th, bump it too close to the February meeting.
It could. I mean, it's 3 weeks away. We're going to be in the throes of the budget, and we'll be presenting to you on transportation utility fund that's been proposed, and some detail on that. That might happen in February or March, but there may or may not be a need for that meeting, just depending on the timing of as we receive information and are able to convey that to you in the form of a meeting. So we could pencil it in on either one.
We pencil it in on the 10th based on team's availability.
Okay.
17th of February, we can come in.
Okay.
Meeting dates are not set in stone. I just have to put up a notice that we date for the.
And I assume in the notice you put that in the description.
Yes.
And if we do change, we just need to notice it then again.
Yeah.
Right.
Post a notice.
Right. council does this, other commissions, all the other commissions do this as well. So it's a bit of a formality because we don't know if those are going to be exactly the dates and times, but it's our best guess at this time.
Okay, well, with that, discuss changing motion to adopt the calendar. The motion is to adopt the calendar as shown, with the exception will be March 17th date being adopted March. Second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Chris. Back to you.
Okay. As mentioned, we are having a meeting at the city council on next Tuesday. And we will be reviewing, let's see, let's do the window. We'll be reviewing this document that I'm going to share. That's on there. Let's see. I don't think this is. I don't think that's being shown on here. Oh, here we go. Okay. We do have an impact fee analysis that's been performed under the guidance of Fred Philpott, who is our financial advisor. His group is Lewis Robertson Birmingham. This is a really brief summary of what's been reviewed. They have a very extensive document, probably 100 pages long, that goes into the analyses that with respect to sewer, water, stormwater, parks and rec, public safety, transportation, and so forth. So they did a comprehensive review. Our fees were adopted a few years ago, and this is basically an update on those fees and charges and the analysis. So in essence, I'll go to present mode here. In essence, these impact fees are for new development that comes into the city. Oh, where is it? I'm going to skim over the first few pages here. But the impact fee, you have to produce a plan, you have to perform an analysis, you have to go through a formal public process. You can see how this is phased through over time. You start off with those two elements. You present findings to staff. There's a presentation discussion with stakeholders, which we are here as a commission and then as a community at large. Then will be a presentation to the administrative body, which is our city council. That's going to be next week. There may be a subsequent meeting that'll take place with the city council as well after they review some of these recommendations. Then there'll be a public noticing or hearing process, and that'll take place over a 90-day period. And then the impact fees can then formally be approved and adopted by the city council after we go through all of this formal process with public hearings, notices, open houses, so on and so forth. And I'm going to get more towards the end. These are the elements of the impact fee that were analyzed. So all of our utilities here, and then in addition, we included police and fire, parks and recreation, and transportation. You define a service area, you determine what the demand is and so forth, and the level of service for that demand that's expected by that community. And then when new developments occur, then we impose the impact fees, and they basically buy into that system and pay their fair share of that. So basically, in essence, what happens is those that are living here today, they're not subsidizing new development for receiving those services for which we've already paid for. That's the essence of the impact fee. These are the major components of the impact fee for future facilities that have been contemplated and anticipated over the next 5 to 7 years or so. You'll notice that in particular in parks, there are about a $26 million in investment there attributed to growth. These are all growth components. So any new development would pay for their share of what's suggested here. This is the summary of the proposed fees. What the maximum amount allowable is, as determined by Lewis, Roberts, and Birmingham for each of these components, is shown in this column for single family maximum. You know, there's different rates based on different land uses. So for residential, for single family, these are the proposed rates. You'll see that it adds up quite a bit for new development in the community. So parks and recreation, there's an $8,000 impact fee maximum that could be allowed. Police and fire are not, pretty minimal altogether. Stormwater $6,000, $8,000. Wastewater is $5,000, about $9,000, $10,000 total. Water is about $14,000 total, $16,000 including water supply. Transportation is about $1,000. Single family existing is paying for these right now, so that's a significant change of what the city council could adopt. We're currently charging these values here in the second column. The maximum amount is not being recommended, and I don't think the city council would adopt them today. This is a comparison against other communities that are relatively similar in size. Some are quite a bit less, actually. In gray, what you see is population, that gray column here on each one of these, for each one of these cities. So, yeah, not necessarily the same population, but the values in blue are showing what they're charging total impact fees for their communities. Orem is shown here in black. We're about a total of, looks like about 36 or so. Not sure what that number is. The average, no, that's not right. I was looking at a population. Ours is around 13 or so, I would say. The average being charged by these other communities is just under 20,000. And what we're proposing is something that could be around this value of average. It could be more or less, depending on what the council would like to do. I'm going to get to
This is just to get a building permit.
getting a building permit, right? So on this right here, that shows the maximums are shown here on the left. This is what I showed earlier. They're totaling up to this CSA and ASM. I'm not sure what those two are. I thought one was single family and the other one was 85. But anyway, they're around 35,000 for all of these.
The one is, the ASA is the annexation.
Oh,
Area.
you're right. You're right.
I don't remember what the C
This
stands
is
for.
the main city,
Yeah.
the city service area. This is the annexation area. Thank you. Those are what the totals are there for both of us with maxes. Option 2 is to for the city service area is 26,488. So it come in close to average, slightly above average. I mean, annexation is about there as well.
What's the current number?
The current number was
13?
around 12,
So
about 13.
by doubling it.
It's about double to come up to just above average. It's anticipating that average is going to go up from 19 whatever, a little bit higher than that. But the first option actually was to adopt around 20,000. The second option is to adopt substantially lower. And this is, Fred Philpott's recommendation. Well, was to keep these numbers here, the ones shown in red. And let's see, there, it's just slightly lower than what's proposed over there. That's substantially lower. Sewers, slightly lower. Parks and Rec is substantially lower on that one there. I think Fred's thought was making sure that the utilities, for example, retain as close of a value as possible. So sewer, water, storm water, in particular. This will be up for discussion and debate by the city council, whether that should happen that way. I would suggest that those impact fees for those utilities, they affect enterprise funds, but the enterprise funds they have funding mechanisms in place where they could probably absorb a lower value than what's recommended. Other funds like parks and so forth, this is a philosophical discussion for the council. They could say, well, but let's lean into recreation and parks and make that higher because the only funding mechanism there for them is sales tax and property tax revenues. Whereas these other ones have fees and they're fee based. our community's, 90%, 95% built out in terms of residential areas. So those are just some of the thoughts, some of the discussions for them to consider. The third option that Fred recommends is just adopt a fee at 75%. He doesn't show the values for that, but it would be quite a bit more than what's shown there under option 2 and significantly more than option 1. So these are the alternative options that Fred is throwing out there to kind of create a discussion for the council. Kind of setting a stake in the ground and going from there. What are your thoughts or ideas regarding these recommendations?
This is what it's gonna cost just to get you building.
For one single family home? Yeah.
And what are these fees then utilized with? What were you using the fees?
They're tied to our master plan, which creates the impact fee plan, impact fee analysis, and so forth. And then they're tied to whatever the burden is that they're going to be placing on the system. They're paying for their proportionate share of whatever utility that might be, or the park, to maintain that level of service that's been adopted by the council. So they're not going to degrade our system. They're going to buy in and maintain that level of service.
Okay, but that money is going to like culinary water would get.
Yes. Yeah. So the water division would get 15,000, and it can only be used for those projects that are identified in the master plan and the capital facility plans. We can't use it for anything else other than that. They have to be qualifying. That's where there's a thorough analysis and study that's done in place. And that's how these numbers were generated. So we have to apply it towards those. Yeah. And if we're woefully less than what the costs are, we're stuck with the fee as shown here. So, and likewise, if it's more than we would only charge what is actually the actual cost.
Chris, there's so much discussion about affordable housing.
Yeah.
See this impacts on affordable.
Yeah.
So there's none of our kids can't afford to go to Orem or such for them.
Right.
What in the philosophical aspect of this help us understand a little bit more where other sources of revenue maybe for that through sales tax. You were saying that some of these is philosophical.
Yeah, so general fund is primarily funded through sales tax and property tax. Property tax increases have not really occurred over the last 40 years. There was one that occurred maybe in 2011 where they maintained the mill rate, and therefore there was a slight increase in revenues that occurred to fund primarily police and fire employees. That's a discussion that the council's having today as well. So general fund is funded primarily by sales and property tax, and that would be on this. That'd be public safety, which would be police and fire. Parks and recreation are funded by property tax and sales tax. And then transportation and roads, they're actually funded through an excise tax through the state. So at the gas station, there's a tax there for a per gallon rate for that sales tax for gas. But then you also have two sales tax components in Utah County that are also funding. So I'd say roads and transportation are funded through those sources. Culinaries by our fees and charges in the city. Sewers by fees and charges as well. Stormwater is by our fees and charges as well. So they're independent of our property tax and sales tax. So the parks, recreation, and public safety are the two on here listed that aren't funded as robustly, I would say, as these other utility or enterprise funds. Does that make sense?
So let me ask, if I could, you have the impact fees. How are being at this analysis? Are they just comparing other entities?
No.
Or have they done a specific analysis
Just
for
for,
the impact form?
just for Orem.
Okay.
And then
That's
we,
what's legally required.
Right,
You have to be
correct.
very careful.
correct,
On litigation.
correct.
Yeah, you go
Yeah.
back your slide or two. So the comparison is the $20,000. That's
Right.
the comparison, but the actual
And
numbers
that's-
calculated that Gabe was called on the right or specific analysis for, is that new infrastructure or is the proportionate share of existing infrastructure to buy into it? The both, the combination of both existing and new required.
It's for whatever is needed to sustain them, to buy in. So at the treatment plant, for example, the council adopted a $230 million capital facility plan. Those sewer rates have gone up substantially since the council adopted that 2 years ago. And so it's to buy into that, and those are needs that they have as they're buying into the system. So,
Chris, what is the staff's back to the options, which by the way, the third option in total is about the same as option 2 for the total overall impact, although the distribution might be
right,
the distribution will be a little different.
Right.
But,
it's less strategic.
What is your recommendation to the council going to be, or are you looking for a?
I would present that there are options depending on which funding mechanism they want to apply. So for public safety and parks and recreation, they're not as robustly funded right now. And if they wanted to, out of general fund, and if they wanted to lean into those and maintain those maximum levels, I would support that. The enterprise funds can then, let me put it this way. The maximum amount is what is allowed for the community or for the city council to charge, so that existing citizens and residents in Orem aren't subsidizing new development. I don't think that's going to be adopted like that. So there'll be some form of subsidy in as I see this, objectively looking at this. If they wanted to lean into primarily supporting the general fund, resources like police, fire, parks, and recreation, I would support that, because the enterprise funds can take care of themselves, I would suggest, in the form of making some adjustments in their fees to accommodate that. But again, that'll be spread out across all of the citizens in Orem. So it's 95,000 people versus this is only on those that are causing that direct impact. I don't have a direct answer, but I would support that either philosophy.
Public safety for structure, like firehouses, because you think
Yeah.
the services being provided.
Yeah, that's why their numbers are
But as
substantially
you
lower.
increase the number of residents you have in the city, then you need to increase the number of police officers or fire staff. So then buying into that system of the growth, you still have to do that. And then it's not just the firehouses, it's also the equipment that they have, wear and tear on that.
Right, and my question is that is funded currently by
General fund,
property tax.
property tax, sales tax.
And sales tax. Right?
Mm-hmm. You can see the numbers up here, Mike, under police and fire. Single family is 436 and then 913. Compared to all the other ones, they're substantially lower than everything.
There is a bill. I think they're trying to control that. So, where I saw a bill,
Yeah.
they had
Okay.
That's how it counts. I don't remember it all. That doesn't apply to us. Let me see.
Yeah, we'll have to pivot and accommodate that to make sure we're compliant with the law regarding impact fees.
So are you looking for a motion in favor of something from this commission, or just is this more of an FYI and it's debated philosophical by the council?
Good question. I mean, you carry a lot of weight as an advisory commission. There's pros and cons to how you implement this. I don't know if you'd recommend the maximum. Probably not, because I don't think the council could support that. But yeah, if you want to make a recommendation, I think that could be entertained. This is more for informational, but if you want to give a preferred recommendation, I think that would be acceptable. These are, this is our financial advisor, their professional financial consultant on their recommendations.
Now, sorry, you've got, I know we're supposed to build out.
Yeah.
How much is this really gonna impact? Not a lot of place left.
That's true. I mean, there's one development in Northeast Orem, the Canyon. Yeah. That one's about 90 units, and there's one down south on 2000 South Whitestone. That's about 50 units. Yes. So it'll affect them directly as
There's
soon as,
small pockets here and there.
yeah, and then small pockets, really. Of all of the residentially zoned properties today, we're at least 90% built. So it's just the small 10% of 5 to 10% that are out there. I'll say this, when we're budgeting as utility managers, we're not looking at these as a substantial amount. This is not a large amount of money to help our operations and implement. So
When you talk affordable housing, I've seen them look at
right. No, it may be the cheapest out there, but they're not very affordable. My daughter and her husband just bought a townhome in American Fork, 2-bedroom for like $480,000.
Versus it's for, high density as well, any single, and so like a townhome, would that be considered similar to this, or is it scale?
No, this is just single family here. So other ones would be, different.
what is the annexation?
So that's Southwest Orem. There was about a square mile, just under a square mile of land south of 14 South, west of the freeway, north of 2000 South. That area, some of that has been piecemeal annexed in. The majority of it is not annexed into the city right now, but that's in our annexation limits as declared by the city council and agreed upon by Provo City as well.
In that area,
Mhm.
you see like, competition posts. So, what would their, if, what their current impact be? Have that-
Oh, Provo Cities?
Yes.
I do not. I don't.
Go back a
Well,
couple
yeah,
of
I mean, yeah, I have this.
I couldn't see that. They're about,
Or was it the average?
Yeah, they're just above average. Yeah, they're around 21 maybe.
if we go above it, it's possible.
Yeah. And of those that are updating their fees and charges, obviously they're going to increase. I don't know how many of these are being updated today. But yeah, you can see Provo is about maybe 7,000 or 8,000 more than what Orem's charging currently. And that's probably our best comparable, actually. That and Provo and Lehigh. It looks like Lehigh is around 17,000 maybe.
That's the, Hammond Grove walk through. West. Continue working. And how to do this. I don't know if this group needs to stay option.
It seems like
Other factors.
the council has flexibility. They could do an option 25.
Oh, yeah.
6%, but if no 25 or.
Right. I think, they threw it out there just to basically create a starting point here for them to then debate pros and cons of each one.
These options were created. Okay. Their discussion. Okay.
The max is legally what they could apply. it's gonna be a fraction of that in the end. Is what I'm kind of
So,
seeing.
a recommendation for the commission that you would like us to consider, or would you like us just to more or less go with what Chris said? And
The council, we haven't discussed this yet as a council yet, and so I don't know how other council members, I don't know what they're leaning towards. We haven't had any of those discussions yet. I'm inclined to say we do need to adjust our impact fees. We can't leave them as such. That does shift the burden onto existing residents, and then what does that do to affordable housing still, right? So do we make new builds less expensive? Or do we make existing homes less expensive? So something has to give. Prices are rising everywhere, so we're going to have to adjust them. I'm still gathering data to figure out what that looks like, but there is going to be a rise in our impacts.
I'll say personally, I like an option of 1.5. That would be at 67%. That puts you right at 12. You're at about 23,000.
Mhm.
That puts you in that area. That's probably a most comparison in a lot of ways.
I will say, I have heard that most of the other cities are also doing these studies. So as we have not raised ours in a very long time, we haven't adjusted them in quite a while, and we've stayed well below the market value, so to speak. As we're looking at this, so is everybody else. So if we only adjust to what everybody else is doing, they're still going to be raising theirs, and we will still be below.
And I'm
So
not trying to do that, but I think the most comparison energy is probably important.
Yeah.
And that's about the number they're at. They might be a little less than that. You're right, they might be raising theirs too. That's still a substantial. Might be double.
so, Chris, appreciate the overview and the discussion that Chris, I think we're all kind of trying to soak it in, understand
Yeah.
the different complexity of nuances of it. Unless there's a strong recommendation of the commissioner to make a formal motion, I would suggest we just queue for the commission may feel like it is important to new development pay for itself. And so we support reviewing the impacts and coming up with a reasonable.
And I think that's a great recommendation.
I guess the only thing I'd add is I like the idea of being competitive. Growing up in Provo, I always complained about the fact that Orem stole them all to go because Orem had the first option. Provo had the first option and didn't play well, but Orem got the ball. Then Orem got every other business as I was growing up. And Orem has always been the competitive place. To me, I would love to see that number at least stay competitively lower than everybody else. Is because I saw growing up in this area what a difference that made in living and growing up in Provo and moving to Orem. I'm looking at Linden there and saying, wow, how can I,
So Linden, I think part of the reason Linden is lower is because their level of service in their city is a bit lower than what the level of services we have in Orem. And part of that is by virtue of size of population, right? They have a lot less people.
and they're so much smaller, and it really is unfair to compare them.
Yeah.
But but that's what I'm looking at saying, gee, if I can build right on the border of Linden, I can get all these benefits and get paid for them.
Yeah.
And
I
in
guess.
reality, there is something to that.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at
Police
like
fire share.
Linden doesn't have a library. We have a library. Linden has less parks than we do. Linden has, they're a smaller community with less resources and less amenities than Orem. And that plays into why our impact fees are higher is because we do have a higher level of service within the community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my only thought is I like the idea of keeping it competitive.
So perhaps an option that's 90% of average or something like that.
Exactly.
95% right there, but just behind.
So make it so, hey, I'm only saving $100, but it's $100 cheaper than Provo.
Chris, how does the recreation arts tax?
There's the care tax,
Care
both for
tax.
arts and recreation. educational.
Was it that it relates to investors?
Well, it's independent. It's tax that was adopted by the council and overwhelmingly approved by the citizens. So it does have that funding source as well for parks and recreation and cultural arts
And that's
too.
part of the sales tax,
Not separate tax.
but it's associated with,
It's added to.
That's how it's collected.
yes,
Percentage
it's
on
collected as the sales
Right,
tax.
right,
So
right,
it's 1/10 of 1%.
Right. I think that's
So for every
around,
$10, it's a penny.
and how much is that a year?
1.6 does
It's about half then.
40.2.
Yeah, it's just over 3 generally.
Yeah.
So there is that component of funding that I didn't mention. You're right.
And Parks has done a lot of things to, Parks and Rec and Library has done a lot of things to make their things self-funding. So
Hmm.
just changing their
Fee
Yeah.
structures.
fee
Yeah,
structures
uh-huh.
and things and how that all works to lessen the burden on the taxpayer and put more on the user. So
Yeah.
that's changed the needs of the library and rec department, I would say.
I like what Mike recommended. I can make that we encourage our council members for support of that by motioning. That's okay. And move to recognize that. So you really package first and see like in make.
Second. Okay, session. Brent's still with us online? Or?
Well, hold on.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Any questions, Brent? I know it's a little harder to probably follow along and not see everything, but
No, I'm good.
okay, we probably have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Go with it.
Great.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's right.
We support
Chris.
We're not
you.
signing out, so we're-
Any other business that you're looking to discuss today?
No, I think we've covered it all. Nothing new. Unless you have any requests of anything that you would like to cover or review or visit in terms of a tour. We are always willing and able to provide tours for water resources, for example, or any new parks that we have online. We have the new water tank in the park over there on 4 South of Heritage Park. If you would like to do any kind of a visit to anything, we could do that. Water reuse facility, the ribbon cutting and grand opening for that's going to be probably in February. We're going to probably start providing water in April for the golf course, for example, in Lakeside Sports Park. That's a facility you have not seen. It's being tested right now and proven that we're able to meet the limits that are imposed on us by the state and under type 1 reuse requirements. So if you'd like to do any of those, please let us know and then we'll set up a time at any one of these upcoming events or meetings. Any ideas, any feedback?
How does that warranty? Other excavating.
Yeah, that's for the booster station. So the tank is being connected to the booster station. Water is going to be taken out of the tank and then pumped back in to the central zone. So we need booster pumps to accommodate that, to overcome the head that's in that zone. So basically we have 3 components of it. The well is taking water out of the ground. It can go up to about 5,000 gallons a minute. Probably won't be producing that high. It's going to be pushed into the tank. It's not being pushed into the system directly. It's intermediately being pushed to there. It can be gravity fed to the west. And then whatever we don't push to the west, we can take into the central zone. That big hole in the ground is the booster station that's being built to be able to connect that hydraulically with the tank. It's in process. Yeah, they're going to remove all of the Secaflex routing, and then we're going to replace it with what we originally spec'd out. We have put water in to test to do a hydraulic testing, and it's met those needs. But the Sikaflex is not performing like it should, and it's not a water stop actually. It's just basically to prevent dirt and stuff from getting in the cracks and collecting down there. But it does need to be removed, and it's in the process of doing so. The contractor's working with us on cost-sharing proposal for that. It's going to be a substantial amount of money over and above what they had to apply for this originally, because now you have to remove it and reapply a different product. So, yeah.
That'd be worth, having a targeted message, not related to that, but the excavation. I think a lot of people are someone's doing like, oh, something's messed up. There's like call
yeah.
it phase 2 or
Yeah.
something, a big sign to say phase 2, because a lot of people, I've had people say,
Okay.
oh, they must be having problems with that tank there. Now they're having to dig it all up again.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
There's
to message that. So
There is a weekly communication that goes out with those around the tank area. So we can, and then there's a website that does update that. So we'll make an effort with our communications team.
even a sign on site. I
Yeah.
know there are signs that maybe older than
That's-
phase 2 or next phase
Yeah.
coming or
Yeah.
something like that. So
Yeah, we can do that. Reed, if you want to work with Pete on that, we'll do that.
okay, thanks, Chris. We'll any recommendations for next agenda items or site visits, we'll entertain those later.
Yeah,
Follow up.
feel free to communicate in any way, email, text, whatever.
Motion. Any other items? I guess. All in favor, I assume.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
See, Rob read the agenda. You do to be 5 minutes late.
Oh, no, yeah. What's wrong? So that was because of we did the tour of the city. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. We do have that available, and we're not doing a tour. The electronic version. Otherwise, we'll be here. Okay. All right. Thanks to see you. Yeah, please take a bagel or drinks on your way.